As frost becomes more common at night and begins to linger well into the morning, all cold-blooded residents of the Adirondacks must abandon their summer routine and begin to prepare for the bleak season that is to come. Despite the bitter cold that settles over the Adirondacks for long periods in winter, an array of cold-blooded animals have evolved the means to survive within this harsh climate. Both painted and snapping turtles use water as a refuge from the potentially lethal weather conditions that would cause ice to form within their cells. As the water begins to cool in autumn, turtles become increasingly more lethargic. This greatly reduces their demand for oxygen. When their watery surroundings drops to within a few degrees of freezing, both of these shelled animals slip into a deep, dormant state at the bottom of their marshy home. The very limited amount of oxygen these dormant turtles need to remain alive can be obtained entirely through a unique lining of their throat and a special sac near their tail. In this way, these lung-bearing vertebrates are able to survive underwater throughout this long season without suffocating. Most species of frogs and a few types of salamanders also retreat to aquatic settings in order to escape the cold. Since amphibians are able to absorb small amounts of oxygen through their skin, these cold-blooded entities are able to remain alive when ice prevents them from accessing the air above. The wood frog and several other amphibians like the spring peeper, redback salamander, and toad are known to pass the winter by burrowing into the soil on the forest floor. By working their way through the layer of leaf litter carpeting the ground and then into the dirt, these terrestrial vertebrates are able to wiggle to nearly a foot below the surface. During years when a substantial accumulation of fluffy snow covers the ground, the cold is unable to penetrate very far, allowing for a soil temperature that is slightly above freezing. Should an insulating blanket of snow fail to develop, the frost line may extend several feet below the surface and engulf any creature in a solid mass of soil that may be a half dozen degrees below the freezing point. Because these amphibians release certain substances, like glucose, into their body to serve as an internal antifreeze, they can remain alive despite exposure to such low temperatures. The garter and ribbon snakes, along with a few other small-bodied snakes, also escape freezing conditions by retreating below the frost line. Ordinarily, as autumn progresses, these snakes migrate towards a spot in which there is a deep hole in the ground or an extensive crack in a rock formation that permits them to get well below the surface. The presence of such a subterranean shelter becomes well known to the snakes in that general area. It is believed that older snakes remember from one year to the next where such a shelter exists, and younger snakes may follow scent trails left by the older snakes as they migrate towards these sites. Eventually, such hibernating locations serve as a winter home to many dozens of garter snakes. The sizable mass of snakes that collect in these dens allow the occupants to better conserve any body warmth that they transfer to the chamber, which improves their chances for survival. Winter is a challenging season for all forms of wildlife that exist in the Adirondacks. For animals unable to generate any internal warmth of their own, the temperature at which ice begins to form can prove to be lethal. Yet life struggles to adapt to nearly all environments, and there are a host of cold-blooded animals that have evolved the means to pass this season until the warmth of spring arrives, when they will be ready to again become active members of the wildlife community here in the Adirondacks.